Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sports Plug. My name is Xavier Williams, and I am your host. Of course, if you are a first-time watcher, please make sure you like and share this broadcast. And also, if you are on YouTube or on Facebook Live watching, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Of course, any other time you join this broadcast, usually any other day, we'll be talking about sports. Of course, that's why you join the Sports Plug. But over the last couple of days, instead of watching your favorite sports channel, either ESPN, Fox, whatever it is, of course, they have a different type of conversation going on right now besides sports. So that's why I decided to take it amongst myself to use my platform to be able to bring a couple of guys on to be able to have this conversation that has to do more than just sports. So I have to get today Ishmael, Travis Nosh, Rob G. the General, Adrian Lunsford, and Don Narcisse. I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves, and then we'll be able to go into our topics for today. Ishmael, start it off.
What's up, y'all? Ishmael. Tune in on Tuesday nights at 9:30 for Ken Folk and them. Also on the Sports Plug. Thanks, X, for having me on tonight. We look forward to getting into it.
Travis Nosh.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Travis Nosh, based out in San Diego. Just appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation with everybody, and just appreciate the invite to listen in with everyone as well.
Don Narcisse.
How you doing? My name is Don Narcisse. I'm from Houston, Texas. It's a pleasure to be here, man. I'm glad that you giving me this opportunity to be on this podcast here.
Okay. Adrian Lunsford.
Adrian Lunsford from Houston, Texas. Thanks again, Xavier, and all the guys that are on this platform. I'm just like Don said, it's just a pleasure to be able to sit here and talk about this and discuss what's going to be, the hard questions and the hard answers that need to be just talked about every day.
All right. Rob G.
What's up, man? Rob General, part-time DJ, full-time dad. And right now, assistant principal at home school. Assistant principal, gym teacher, and cafeteria worker. All that.
All right. all that. All right. Again, like I said, I appreciate all y'all seriously for joining in because you guys could have been doing anything, but you guys are here with me, and I do appreciate that. So, like I said, we're going to get into the elephant in the room, of course, the big topic that is going on right now, Jacob Blake, and about the situation that is going on with him. There are a lot of backstories on who was right, who was wrong, what his criminal record is, whatever it is that is going on. What black people are really tired of is having to see the same thing go on. It seems like week after week. Now, don't get me wrong. What is the backstory on Jacob Blake might be true. I don't know exactly, but I think like I said, the elephant in the room, and if you guys want to speak upon it, is having to see the same trauma for the last just 10 years alone with social media that I think a lot of black people are fed up with. Anybody want to chime in?
I think, you're right. We're fed up about it, and I'm talking about the other day with my wife. Of all the videos that we've been seeing in the last 10 years, early 90s, and what we saw there, and it makes me wonder, man, how much stuff has gone unrecorded and unreported. That ought to make you angry right there. I think this time that we're in and the momentum that is being created by Black Lives Matter, by the sports in MLB, NHL, WNBA, all taking a stand and boycotting these games. I think it's a tremendous amount of activism by these people who have an incredible voice and an incredible platform to help get the changes that we so desire.
And like you said, Rob, it first started off with the NBA, with the Bucks, with Giannis. It seemed like carrying the torch, saying we're going to protest this game, and it started a trickle down effect amongst the NBA, MLS, WNBA, and to see the trickle down effect amongst sports, or amongst the sports leagues. It was very eye raising because we knew that, of course, the NBA was going to probably take a stand, but to also see the MLB, and then also a day later the NHL postponed their games as well. That was very eye raising because you don't expect those type of sports to want to make that stand.
I totally agree. I don't think anybody saw it happening, and it's I think.
Uh-oh. There we go. We got him back. We got you, Rob. We got you. All right, he'll join us. He'll join us in a brief second. Anybody else want to join in?
Yeah, I'd like to say, it's the same thing that Rob just touched on, but one of the things that's numbing to me, that keeps just coming up and just continues to be an issue, is everybody, like you said, all the major sports are, looking at it, and everybody's having their opinion of what's going on and taking a stance. The problem that I really see is that no matter what Jacob Blake's history was years and years and years ago, or whether it was 2 days ago, it doesn't matter. Whatever his history is, it's not up to the law officer that is there to become the judge and the jury and to decide his fate. That is obviously he's lived and he's going to be paralyzed so far. They don't know. And we still have a lot of speculations, but, there's a lot of this goes on without body cams, without cameras, without footage. Everyone has social media, but the biggest problem is you take it upon yourself to become judge and jury of a situation. And that's probably the most numbing thing that in the Black community that I keep seeing over and over. Everybody wants to go and say, oh, they were this person, they were that person. Well, they're not that person that day. What is going on that day? What makes you think that you need to become the judge and the jury on that particular day? That's probably the biggest thing that just drives me just every time I look at something. It's like, when did you make it your point to become, the judge and the jury of this whole scenario?
Judge, jury, and executioner. Don't forget that.
That's what I was about to add. That's a key part right there. I think for me, like personally, if I can just kind of jump in, it's it's just always this rebuttal from people of my complexion that, well, they did this or did that. And it's, again, like, to protect and serve, not to protect and execute potentially. Like, it's for me, it brings up a lot of emotion. So it's hard for me to sometimes articulate that. I'm a much better writer. But for me, it's just, I don't understand how there's such a lack of empathy from people that look like me when it comes to these scenarios. And it's almost a refusal to put yourself in their shoes. And from my point of view, it's almost gotten to this point where I don't mince my words by any means. I'm very direct in calling out people that look like me for these beliefs, because for me, it's like James Baldwin said, it's like, how much time do we need for progress? I'm kind of butchering the quote a little bit, but essentially it's like, people tell us, and I wrote this, and essentially it's like, people tell us and people in our position, our beliefs, to, kill them with kindness. Man, you got to nurture them, you got to bring them along. But it's like, we're supposed to kill them in kindness when they're actually literally killing us. And that's where it's just, I don't know solutions right now. For me personally, I think there needs to be more directness, and I think the words that we use need to be more direct. Like, for example, judge, jury, executioner. Like, these are not police shootings; these are executions in broad daylight. And I try to explain to, like, I refuse to watch Jacob Blake's video. I refuse to watch George Floyd's video. Like, I know what's happened. I know what's going down. We should not be normalizing this stuff. Like, this is traumatic. Like, my black friends do not need to see another black man or black woman executed on the internet and then see puppy videos right after that. Like, but with the whole Jacob Blake situation, just all of these, attempted executions or executions. I think one of the biggest things is how we cover this, and it talks about this kid Kyle, how they're painting this kid as like his history is not being brought up, how he hasn't been radicalized, right? Like that, none of that's brought up. Jacob Blake we found a knife in their car. How many country folk do I know? Nothing against them. They're still my friends. They have more than one knife in the car, multiple guns in the car. So yeah, I'm kind of rambling on, but that's kind of where I stand with kind of everything right now.
Now you're good, Travis. Just to piggyback off what you're saying, so that's Kyleittenhouse who you were speaking upon. He was the 17-year-old gentleman that crossed state lines to go from Illinois to Wisconsin. And no, we're not. This is not a show to get on anybody or anything like that. I'm just stating out the facts of what happened. And from what the report said, he used his self-defense because he was apparently attacked amongst the mob that was there, and he fired back and whatnot. But of course, what I know about having those automatic rifles is that you're not supposed to have one unless you're 18. So from what I know is apparently everything is cease and desist. Being a 17-year-old with that weapon, last time I checked, the law is supposed to protect everybody. He should automatically go to jail right then and there for having that type of weapon. Am I correct?
So I'm actually happy that Travis brought that up because I wanted to point that out. We've been talking about how, we're sick of seeing this all the time. One of the things that we really need to focus on is this double standard that we have. Not only the double standard from the police and how they seem to react to situations, but the double standard we have with the media and how they like to portray the situation. So like you talking about Kyle, how now they're painting him as, oh, he was cleaning up graffiti hours before this happened or whatever. But also the fact that you're bringing up right now with him having an automatic weapon, which he is not legal to own, and he went across state lines with it, which is also illegal. So this double standard that society also has, where they like to say, if it's an African American person, oh, well, he had a knife, he had this warrant and this. Here you have a person who has already committed multiple crimes. They are basically in the act of committing a crime, whether or not you're talking about self-defense. The fact that you, on one hand, will say, oh, well, he's a criminal and he should have listened in this. And then you have somebody who is actively committing multiple crimes. And you're going to sit here and say, well, it was self-defense. We need to get the whole story. They were attacking him. Like, that double standard needs to end. If you are a person that is watching this video of Jacob Blake, and you're saying, oh, he should have complied and he had a weapon, he had a warrant, and then you turn around in the very same breath and say, well, with this guy, he was defending himself. You need to examine yourself. You should examine yourself, because that right there is disgusting. It is disgusting for somebody to sit here and tell anybody that, oh, this guy's a criminal, and then you're going to ignore another crime to say, oh, it's self-defense because it fits your agenda.
I agree, Ish. I agree. And another reason why, again, I wanted to bring on the guest that I have is because of the age group. And no disrespect, my seniors that are on here, you guys have seen these types of killings. Let me explain. You guys have seen these types of killings in y'all's lifetimes as well, in y'all generation. And today marks the 65-year anniversary of Emmett Till, unfortunately passing away because of just looking or whistling at a white woman. And of course, if you are black, everybody pretty much knows about that Jet magazine cover that shows Emmett Till's face and how he looked when he was in the casket and whatnot. So fast forward to where we are now in 2020. I think, like Travis is saying, when it comes to just the empathy part, it feels it feels some type of way towards him. Like Travis, like I say, it feels type of way towards him because he sees that his black friends feel some type of way about this, and you guys don't even flinch. You know, you guys just go on about your day like everything is magical when in reality it's not. And it's just very unfortunate to see, you know, friends of ours that don't, you know, do anything about it and just act like everything is normal when in reality it's not.
Well, first thing, they got to see you as a human. That's the first thing. And I think that slavery, 3/5 of a human ideology still permeates to this day. If we got the same amount of outrage behind George Floyd as they did behind Michael Vick killing dogs, then change would have been made. Them dogs, did you see that he shouldn't live. He shouldn't. They said Michael Vick didn't deserve to play quarterback in the NFL. He shouldn't play. He should not have an opportunity to play in the NFL. But these police officers still deserve to work. And we're talking dogs.
Paid leave too.
Paid leave or pick up and go to another city. So if we got to start at that part, see us as equal, that we are him, you know, that we are equals. It's like Michael Che said, you know, we're fighting for civil rights, not even equal. Civil, be civil, and we can't even get civil rights. That's the baseline. Is civil, man. It's messed up.
Yes. Now, I have another question for you three guys. Again, you guys are pros in y'all's profession. And one thing Charles Barkley said a couple of nights ago is that he knows that he gets treated differently because he's a celebrity. And he knows that certain people treat him differently but won't treat another black person that same way because they don't have that celebrity, the money, this, that, and the third. But will also say because you are a celebrity and you're black, get over it. It's, you know, you're good. You don't have to worry about this, that, and the third because you have money. Now, again, I know you three guys go out every day and y'all are not, you don't have cameras around y'all. Y'all don't have this quote unquote, you know, celebrity Hollywood lifestyle anymore. And when you go out as a regular black person, how do you guys feel going out? Do you guys, you know, I'm not saying are you guys scared for y'all's life, but I'm asking, do you guys sometimes feel unsafe when you have a cop driving behind y'all? Because again, a lot of people feel like black people just make up this mystique that, you know, black people are just always afraid for no reason. So again, my elders, you know, do you guys feel some type of way about the whole black fear that you've had for the last, you know, umpteen years?
I can relate to that. In 1989, you know, I played football for the Canadian Football League. I was at my mother-in-law's house, and I was on the treadmill. And I got through off the treadmill, walked out the door, stepped on the curb. A cop stopped. He was like, "Hey, somebody just broke in this house." I was like, "Okay." He was like, "It was a black guy." And then the lady cop came. They was like, "Well, what were you doing?" I said, "I was working out." Yeah, that person was working out too. So they had me to get in the cop car and bring me over there to the people whose house was robbed. And they came to the car, and I'm looking at them, looking at each other. They were like, "It's not him." And from that moment, man, I was like so embarrassed because it took a lot out of me, man. And, you know, being in Canada, I have so many friends that I talk to, all white friends, and they can't believe this. I said, man, my son, he just moved to Dallas, and I had to have this talk with him. I had to tell him that you can't drive 5 miles over the speed limit. Don't have your music loud. If the cops stop, you always say yes, sir, no, sir. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. And they be like, "You got to do all of that?" I was like, "Yeah, that's what I have to do for my son, man. That's what we have to do to stay alive." And that's the same thing that my mom taught me when I was growing up. Like, "Hey, Don, you start driving, you got to make sure you don't." And I tell my son, can't have more than 3 people in the car. simple stuff like that. And my friends from Canada, they like, wow, we didn't know that y'all go through things like this. I was like, yeah, man, it's unbelievable.
I just like to real quick add on to that, Xavier, and me and you and I talked about this offline before, and you're like a son to me, so we talk all the time. But just in March, recently, this was what 5 months ago, I was pulled over. I went fishing. That's what I do in my off time. Like you, Don, I played football and actually know your brother real well. He and I played together. And so, but anyway, long story short, fishing, got pulled over in the area. I won't disclose all of that now just because, but got pulled over, 6 police cars. I'm a licensed gun carrier. I was fishing, so naturally I had my gun on me because I didn't know what was going on, what would happen. I'm coming out of the fishing hole. I got my gun in my boot. I got 6 cop cars pulled up on me, guns drawn, get out the car. I'm sprawled out on the ground, face first. And like I told Xavier, at that exact moment, when it all went down, the way it went down, the whole thing, I knew in my mind, I had one of 2 options. I could either feel threatened, pull my gun and start shooting my way out and die, or I was going to comply and still possibly die. And that was the reality that hit me so hard 5 months ago, and luckily, by the grace of God, I'm still here, no problems. And like I told the officer, he talked to me afterwards, and I told him, I said, okay, you don't understand what this just went down. I said, I had a gun in my boot. You knew I had a gun in my boot. I told you I had a gun in my boot. You'd have shot me or any one of these 6 other cop cars. There was a total of 10 cops that pulled up on the scene. Any one of them decided to shoot. I had no witnesses, no anything that said that I didn't draw or reach for my gun. I have 2 bad knees. I'm on my knees. I fell to my face. It scared me to death because I was like, I cannot hold myself up. I'm telling you guys now, I cannot hold myself up. The guns were drawn. I had a gun put to the back of my head. It was not one of these pull the gun out of your holster. It was to the back of my head. I felt the gun against my head and asked me, where is your gun? I was like, it is in the boot. He was like, I am going to reach for your gun. I was like, you can do whatever you need to do. Just don't shoot me. And at the end of the conversation, that's what I was telling the officer. He was trying to apologize because they said I stole my car. And I was like, oh my God. I said, now you really thought I stole my car, but you didn't even run my license plate because you pulled me over when you passed by me. There was no chance of you running my license plate. And then he apologized and said that he pulled the wrong plate. And so it was a racial profiling and all of that. But like I told Xavier, I thank God that I'm alive, but it goes through, like Don said, you talk to your kids about it. But the bad thing is you could die complying. And that's the scary, scary part of it.
That what you're saying right there, man, and incredible testimony right there. And thank God you made it through. But you're right. And your initial question, Xavier, is there fear? Absolutely. When those bubblegum lights go off behind you, absolutely there's fear. Because one, we've seen what can happen. We've seen and how a misunderstanding can end in tragedy, or just a overhyped, over-vigilant police officer, and that they have, again, they don't see you as equal. If they'll shoot you like Philando Castile, if they'll shoot you in the car with your wife and kid, they don't care. That person doesn't care. He doesn't see you as an equal at all. And I think back to my time, actually, wearing my hat and shirt right now. My freshman year, sophomore year in college, I was walking home from campus. I lived about a mile off campus, and it took us through a shortcut through a little shopping district. And I got pulled over when I was just walking, and a cop just kind of rolled up on me, in the dark. Asked to see my student ID, said that some stuff had been stolen. I gave him my backpack. Now at the time, this is 87. I ain't thinking about it, anything too much about it. But as looking back on it, he could have done what he wanted to do right there at that time. And that wasn't the only time I got pulled over while walking. A couple other friends, we just went to the little corner store, got a 6-pack of beer. We're all 21, and we got pulled over and profiled right then for walking while black. So, there's absolutely fear. And I just had the same conversation with my son who's 10 yesterday about the importance of following directions. And like you said, Adrian, even then it could still end badly. And that's with the most manners, the most proper etiquette, the most proper language and body language and trying to dumb yourself down to show that you're not a threat, it can still end up terribly.
And I'm happy that you brought up Philando Castile because Ishmael brought that up a couple episodes ago on our show, Kinfolk and them, when it comes to even if you comply, there is still a way of you still unfortunately getting shot just because you, like you said, Rob, are just a threat by your skin color. And it's really sad and unfortunate because as a black person, when you try to show, your white friends, hey, look, this is what's going on, and you have friends of yours that will still tell you, no, if you just comply, if you just do what the officer tells you, this is, these things are not going to happen. But you can show them video after video after video, and they'll still tell you, you guys are just making this up. So again, it's just disheartening. It kind of like what Doc Rivers said in his press conference. You love this country so much, for a country that doesn't love you back, especially somebody like myself that has served in the United States Army. It seems like it's very unfair that you have a bigger chance to pass away where you live than you do overseas fighting for your country.
I'm a Navy veteran. I feel you on that.
Sir. Yes, sir. So again, just to bring up, just to sum up everything what you guys are talking about with the police is, it sounds like policing needs to get addressed and accountability amongst the police officers about what they do, because it seems like the power that they have, which is not the actual individual power, but the system that it has amongst cops when it comes to they can do something and still be able to get away with it because the system allows that. Who and what do we do to be able to take account of, so we can be able to put those cops and be able to take them to trial and they can be held accountable and they can be, and so we can actually have some type of peace amongst the black community. Again, would it be nice to have an eye for an eye, but it's not going to happen because that creates chaos. So at least can we start with the accountability part and at least arresting the cops that do, excessive force, that do the wrong things, and that need to be, like I said, persecuted in the fullest extent.
Let me just say this real quick, because my battery's about to die,
No
and I don't want to miss out on the conversation. But I think it all, a lot of it starts with voting and getting, you can't just vote in presidential years because most people don't even know their city councilman. A lot of people don't even know what district they live in. So it starts right there. So you have to know every level, your city councilman, your mayor, your county commissioners, the judges. It starts there really with the judges, because if the judges and the correct sheriffs are in place who will help police themselves, then you stand a better chance. You can't just look for the president to be the be all and do all of everything. And you've got to be involved on every level. You've got to be registered. You've got to be informed. And that's going to help turn the tide on the criminal justice system right there. So I think that's, like I said, that's a start. That's a start for it. And fellas, I love this conversation. My phone's about to go. So if I don't get to say anything, thank y'all. Thank you for this opportunity to be on. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Appreciate you, Rob. Thank you for being here.
All right, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
So yeah, like Adrian. Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was just gonna say, first and foremost, man, before anything, Travis, man, I appreciate you, being on here from the standpoint of a white young man that, the accountability that X was just talking about is exactly what you said earlier. And my brother's a cop. He's a police officer in Iowa. And so the roles are actually reversed there. You know, it's very few black folks in Iowa, but he's a police officer there, a state agent. And so I always feared for his life from the other standpoint of someone trying to take advantage of it. But I wanted to say thank you, Travis. And your accountability, like you said, you know, just it's hardening for you to take and look at it, and it bothers you. That's the same thing my brother said about it's going to take the police officers to be accountable for their own kind. Because the bad thing is that 3 or 4 cops can be there, but and no one ever says it. They one guy may pull the trigger, but there was 5 others that allowed it to go down the way that it went down. And that's probably, you know, these are the things we're never going to be able to change. You can't change how a person feels. If they're racist, they're racist. You're not going to be able to convince them that they're not racist. You know, you can talk to them all you want and try to beat it through their head or whatever the case may be, but it's not going to change their heart. But the thing is as an accountability person, you can change what you allow to happen in front of your face. And that's probably, I start off every question with my white friends that, and I told them, I'm not picking at you. It's just a fact. You have to admit that there's and acknowledge that there's systemic racism and a racial injustice. If they don't admit that, then there's no reason for me to really go on other than to just try to enlighten them and move forward. Because if they don't believe it, they're not going to see it. And Travis, so my hat goes off to you, man. I appreciate you being a young man and having the courage to say what you said. So I just wanted to say that's accountability to me at its highest level.
Yeah, I mean, for me too, X and I were talking, like me, X, and Ish all went to Lingham Creek, and I think for me being, you know, I ran summer track, USATF, AAU, all that stuff, and it's like I'm the only white kid that's a 400-meter sprinter, 200-meter sprinter that's actually like legitimate, right? You know, winning races in the city of Houston is a pretty big deal, and that I was enriched in the black community, like black coaches, black teammates, everything, every walk of life. And I was talking with X, and I think really the first time that everything started clicking to me was probably about, I think it was either sophomore or junior year. I was fortunate enough to have a family that could give me a car when I turned 16, had a driver's license. I had plenty of teammates that weren't that fortunate. And I'll never forget, I had a couple of teammates, and there was one in particular that, you know, we get home from the track meet, you know, it's late at night, probably sometimes on a Thursday night, sometimes Friday night, and everybody else would have their parents come and pick them up. You know, all the distance guys had all their family, everybody picking them up. But we just always had one teammate, and he was always the one who was going to walk home. And he lived like 2-3 miles away. And I was like, nah, man, like I will always take you home. And I'll never forget taking him home and seeing that there's not a single light on in that house. And to me, like, there was never a point in my life coming home that the lights weren't on and I didn't have like a parental figure at the house. And learning that, you know, I had plenty of teammates that they sometimes wouldn't see their parents for maybe 24 hours because they're working 2 jobs just to provide for them. And so I'm completely thankful for that upbringing, and that's why I am emotionally passionate about standing up and like, because honestly, it's a lot of BS. I try not to cuss on this thing, but the fact that a lot of things happen, like why in our country does change happen when a white guy has a problem with something? Like it doesn't make any damn sense to me whatsoever. And just like that's kind of like my background and how I like in even going to the University of Arkansas, like I was fortunate enough to go there and again had teammates from all throughout the South and all different backgrounds. Teammate from Phoenix City, Alabama, and just learning and seeing really what they've had to go through and really being a part of it. It's just people don't have that experience. Bringing it back though to like accountability with policing. This is actually, I've been writing about this and just talking about this since Cap, really, when it really started getting vocal and mainstream. But I just learned about qualified immunity this year. I want to say with George Floyd, and the fact that exists we have to get rid of that. There is no accountability there. Like that is your literally get out of jail free card. Like
now, Travis, if you want to repeat that one more time for people that's listening in and explain what you just said to people that are listening that don't know what that is.
Sure. And I basically qualified immunity is, and from my understanding of it is, they have to have done, basically if they get into, like, let's say they shot someone, if they hadn't done the exact same steps in the past and were like reprimanded for that, and I could be butchering it, there's a lot of technicalities in there, but essentially like they're cool. Like, okay, well, this wasn't the exact same situation as last time. So even if like these officers that have multiple reports against them or assaults filed against them, whatever, like if it's not textbook 1, 2, 3, they did this exact same thing, they can get away with it. And that's crazy to me. Like that blows my mind. The other thing is police unions have to be completely abolished. They run, honestly, and yes, cops. There's great cops and there's bad cops, but like police unions control a lot of what's going on. Again, I'm still educating myself, so I'm not going to speak out of like what I do and don't, like what I don't know, essentially. But I do know from reading a lot more that police unions are heavily involved in what's going on. And what's really concerning for me right now is these groups are supposed to protect us, right? Protect and serve, say it again and again. And you have the New York Police Union coming out and endorsing a president, Donald Trump, obviously. And how are you going to protect and serve everybody if that's who you support? And there's just a lot of issues with qualified immunity, policing, and honestly, there's just too much money. Defunding the police, I'm all for, and some people are like, whoa, that's crazy, that's radical. And then it's like, oh, hold on, and there's plenty of memes out there which are great for educating all of us. But how many times do we bat an eye when they defund schools, especially public schools, especially inner city schools? Like, we don't bat an eye, like, oh, cool, whatever. And then here's another $1 billion for the police unit or police department.
Well, there's some people that are out there, and I had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. I will not put his name in here, but what he pretty much told me is that he feels like if you want to train the police more and you want to give them better training, defunding the police is actually a bad thing because you don't give them the resources to be able to train them and get them and where they need to be. I don't feel like the police need to have a SWAT, a souped up SWAT, carrier to bust down a 1-story building, a 1-story house to get three ounces of crack off the street. The money, like you said, Travis, when it comes to funding, is instead of giving it to the police officers, they try to put it back into the community and making sure that the community is able to benefit off of that money as well. But I think the word defunding or defund scares people, and it makes people think that you're going to take all the money away from the police and just pretty much not have a police department anymore.
Yeah, and again, it's a scare tactic, right? Like, yes. It's like, oh, like I'm not saying abolish the police. I am saying abolish police unions. There needs to be that needs to get the hell out. Like,
I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But defunding literally is just reallocating resources to different, like, and if you talk to because I do have friends that are cops that I've talked to, had plenty of conversations with, and they're like, yo, we don't need to be coming out to some of these scenarios. Like, that should be a social worker, things like that. Problem is, like, there's no money there. Like, there's no funds there. So if we can reallocate those funds elsewhere, like, also there, and I mean, I don't have all the studies up and things like that off of hand, but there are plenty of studies that show, like, training has not done anything because it's been how many decades of this going on, and we're like, oh, we just need better training. We just need better training. I was like, what training is going to convince a racist or someone that has a gun with power that a black man is a human being if they don't believe that. Like, there is no training is going to fix a rotten soul, is what I'd say. And I completely disagree with whoever said that. Like, that's not true. Like, training does not do that. You can train in different types of procedures, but when it's all set, like, okay, cool, training, but you have a taser. I know you've been trained with the taser. I know you've had to been shot by a taser, so you know what a taser is, but that's never your go-to option. But yeah, it's just, long story short, that training is not the issue, and it doesn't work. Like,
and I got you. And to wrap all this up, because we're about to come down to closing time. To wrap all this up, what should all of us do? And I wish I had Rob on here as well. What should all of us do as a community, as the elder generation, us younger folks, black, white athletes, regular, not athletes, whatnot. What do we need to do to be able to move forward, to be able to get better as a whole and as a nation? And of course, we're not talking about just the policing part, but what can we do actively to move forward and become, better as a nation?
I think that we all have to come together. That's the most important thing. What I try to do is try to inspire a lot of kids about, taking this pandemic real serious. As far as being a football player, this pandemic is going to go for a long time. So just being deliberate and just letting them know that they can achieve. I think if we all come together, everything will be fine.
I agree with Don. Come together, and we have to hold our fellow man accountable, black, white, and it's not one way or the other in that regards. Like I told you, X, I used to didn't even do these type of things just because I didn't see a need, but now I see that I'm not getting on CNN no more. I'm not getting on Fox. I'm not getting on all those channels as easily when I'm not playing football and all that. So I'm holding myself accountable to address these situations and talk about them. And everybody's going to have an opinion. Everybody's going to be criticized and all that. But it's truly accountability. If you see something wrong, you need to address that wrong and try to help fix and alleviate the situations. And obviously we're not cops, but at the same time, we, like Travis said, I talk to my brother and I tell him all the time, I say, hey man, you got to talk to your guys and see what kind of guys you're around. I mean, you truly have to see, and prime example, people play with Brian Urlacher, and now all of a sudden you see the comment that he made, and you're sitting there going, okay, these guys were in the locker room with him. Now, did you know what kind of person he was? No, because you never had to ask those kind of tough questions of him when you were playing with him. You accepted it. And we've all been in locker rooms. And we all been in, we've all played sports. All of us on this call. And we know, I didn't ask these of my teammates. I didn't hold any of my teammates accountable. Didn't have to, I didn't think. Now I see if I was playing now, I would hold them accountable. I'd hold myself accountable. And that would be the biggest thing. I'd hold my coaches accountable, my ownership, everybody needs to be accountable for what's going on. But we didn't do that because it wasn't the same day and age. And now we're in a different day and age, and we have the means to be able to hold people accountable. So accountability and coming together, definitely.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
I'd add on top of that, I think that there's certain people that are just never gonna come together, no matter how hard we try. And I still haven't found, X, you've seen me in my comment section, I do not pull any punches when it comes to addressing these kind of people. I personally, and maybe this is more for any type of feedback from y'all, because y'all live through it way more than I do, and guaranteed. I do not know how to be kind to a racist. I do not know how to put up with a racist. I personally refuse to. I just don't know how we get to that point of changing, because I don't think you can change something. Like I feel the way I feel towards racism, anyone that's a racist, like it is a strong disdain, like it is hate. It is hate. Like, hate to say it, but that is what it is. And I was driving yesterday because I was thinking about this call for today, and I realized that like it kind of like it made me take a step back, and it hit me hard, because my it was just pure rage and just all those kind of words all lumped in together. And I took a step back because I was like, damn, this is exactly how they feel about all my friends that are black, all my friends that are Mexican. And I guess like for me, it's more of if y'all have any type of feedback on how to potentially bring someone on from that hate, I don't know how, and I don't see a way. I think we almost kind of leave them behind. It's like, why in terms of history do we celebrate, like literally even in media and film, we literally celebrate Nazi hunters. But when it comes to white supremacists and these racists here in the States, like we have to cherry pick how we talk to them. We have to hold their hands and everything like that. My thought process is like, why do we glorify this in film, media, literature? But then we're like, oh, hold on now, with our guys, we got to be more gentle. Like, let's bring them along. Like, I don't know. I truly don't know how to get through to those people. I don't know what your experiences, Adrian or Don, have been. I would appreciate any feedback, because like I have plenty of people in my life that are like, look, man, like you're never gonna get through to someone with all your anger and with all your hostility, essentially. And they believe that kindness is the way to go, but I'm just not convinced. I'm not convinced that a rotten soul kindness is going to shine any light on that darkness.
Well, to answer your question about how to be nice to racists, I'm pretty sure Don and Adrian can agree, because our grandparents and our great grandparents, they had to be a certain way, because if they didn't, then they probably would have got hung or they would have gotten killed. So it was just unfortunate that you have to say yes sir or mass or no sir, because it was just that time of day. Now we fast forward to where they are now, where we are free to where, like you said, Travis, you can choose to go off on a racist on social media. That's no problem. Us, as black folk, we can excuse ourselves and have that option instead of having to deal with racists, anymore nowadays. So I'm pretty sure Don and Adrian can chime in a little bit more on that as well.
Well, like in Canada, I've been in Canada almost all my life, so I dealt with all white folks. Mm-hmm. And being in Canada, and the way I grew up, I came from Port Arthur, Texas. I went to a black elementary school, I went to a black junior high school, I went to a black high school, I went to a black college. Then when I went to Canada, next thing you know, my mom always kind of kept us away from the racism and stuff like that. But when I moved down to Canada, I had befriended this little kid. It was a white kid. He was 9 years old. I went to his house. He had a birthday party. I went to his house. Next thing you know, I started staying at his house. They took me in. So for 9 years of my career, I stayed at their house. Didn't have to pay any rent, didn't have to do anything. So it came a time that I was the all-time lead receiver in the CFL, and my mom came down. And my dad, and my mom got a chance to meet my Canadian mom. But I never told my mom that I was staying with a white family. And when my mom came to the house and met her, she was like, Donald Ray, I didn't know you were staying with a white family. This would never happen in the United States. And she started crying. From that moment, man, I was like, God, man, I'm so blessed. And if I wouldn't have stayed with those people for the 12 years that I played, I would never have been a Hall of Famer, Canadian Football Hall of Famer. It's amazing growing up in the household that I grew up in. And everybody from Port Arthur, we probably, my first time meeting a white person was when I got a chance to go to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. That was my first time ever seeing, having a roommate that was white, and treated them just like anybody else. And man, it's something, man. Now that I look at it, but just to see that was like in '89, the '90s, and it's 2020, and we still dealing with the same stuff. It's unbelievable, man. It's unbelievable.
Ish, you got anything to say before we get up out of here for the night?
Yeah, man. Just to close it out and to add on to what everybody's already said, I think some of the things we can do moving forward. One, you can volunteer in your community, get involved in your community, especially with like the young kids, man. If we want them to start making a change, that's where we do it at the young age. These kids coming up, you need to go out there, get in your community, do something. Two, you can get educated on the politicians in your community. Make sure you're going out and voting and learn who those people are in your community that are making a difference, that can affect the policies and things that affect your community. And if the people that are in office right now are not doing the right things or not for the type of change that you think needs to happen, then find somebody that will. And it may take some of us, stepping up and running for office, but we got to start doing that. If that is the situation that needs to happen, then we need to do that. In our communities, we need to start doing that. Also, I would say, man, just keep having these conversations. All of us need to keep having these conversations amongst ourselves, amongst our friends, but also keep the lines open with people who don't necessarily share the same ideas that you share, because I think Travis, like you said, you struggle with it and it's really hard. But I think the only way that we start to make a difference, the only way we start to see that change that we keep to move forward, is if we keep that line of communication open and we have these conversations. Whether at the end of the conversation we both like, yo, I hate you and you don't make any sense and whatever, that's fine. But we got to have these conversations. One, because we need to be able to talk to them to keep them in the present day and knowing what's actually going on. Two, because we need to know what our opposition is, the type of weapons and the tactics they're using. You're not going to know how to fight against your opposition if you don't know how they are coming to the battle. So like, if you're not having these conversations with them, how are you going to know that information? That's part of us being educated, staying in these conversations, talking to these people, and then going out in our communities and making a difference. So I think if we do those things moving forward, we can start to see some of that change that we hope to see.
All right. Anybody got anything else to say before we get up out of here for the night?
I just appreciate the opportunity to kind of talk with y'all, meet everybody as well. Always going to fight for y'all. Been doing it for a long time, but I'll never shut up. That's all I'll say.
Hey, Travis.
Nothing wrong with that, Travis.
He's somebody I want to meet, man. Information, man.
Yeah. When all this stuff clears up,
all right.
Done wearing a mask, I'll
I gotta give you. Yeah.
Yes.
We'll get everybody together. That's no biggie. I got y'all. That's why they call me the plug. You already know, Sports Plug, baby. No, but for real though, I do appreciate everybody that joined this broadcast. Everybody that watched tonight. Of course, if you want to rewatch it, it'll be on Facebook and on YouTube. We will be back to sports, but for right now, let's continue to have this conversation. Make sure everybody's able to talk about what they want to talk about, and we'll get back to sports. But for right now, this is the great time to have it. 2020 is a crazy year. We ain't doing anything, and we'll see y'all next time on the Sports Plug. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.